When you look back at some of these photos and the videos, that time period that you were coming up in skateboarding and meeting all these people and just hanging out, it's very romanticized. And it's like the era that at least our generation doesn't stop talking about. It's the era that kind of served as like the just like the anchor point for what things are. Um, when you look at them, what comes to mind when you look at these photos? How much of that was really how y'all were living?
I mean, the photos are how we were living. The film is what's exaggerated. Um, yeah, I don't know. I mean, you know, when I first did the film, when we started shooting, I was 16, right? I was the youngest person on the film. So my mom had to sign a release to let me do it. And my mom kind of knew what was up. She was like, I know this is what you kids are doing, you know? Um, so I always say, like, outside of the sex, like, it's pretty straight on. It's just exaggerated. Things like the fight and stuff like that. Even though that fight is based on a real fight that happened at the Brooklyn Banks, there's this amazing Dave Schubert footage of that fight. I think it was in a 411, and you could just kind of feel the energy from his footage. Uh, so no, I definitely wasn't having sex like that back then. Skaters weren't like cool back then. Like that was kind of a low point for skating, but those were like my favorite times in skating when like nobody was paying attention to it. It was just sort of like the real like diehards doing it. It wasn't like a trend. It was just like, all right, all your friends stopped doing it, but you kept doing it. And like basically I'm from Jersey. And so, you know, I had my little group of friends in Jersey that I skated with. A bunch of them stopped, so you go find kids in another town, and then you kind of squat up like with all your. I'm from North Jersey, and then you hit the city, and um, so yeah, it was like it was cool. Again, the Banks contest, which that fight is based on, was probably like the biggest gathering of skaters on the East Coast for like a number of years before and a number of years after. Like that contest was really like the biggest thing to happen in New York in that time period. But I was like a 14-year-old kid with Larry Clark and all these dudes, probably intimidated as fuck. And like, um, and then, just seeing Larry around for the next 2 years, you always heard this, these rumblings about a movie, but you didn't believe anything back then. You didn't take it seriously. The only reason I thought Larry was interesting was because he would be with Tobin, and I knew who Tobin was. And I was like, oh, maybe this is like some Rick Cossack-esque skate photographer that doesn't like look like a skater, is like older, maybe he works for Big Brother. I didn't really know what to make of Larry, but like no one did, you know. I think Harmony was smart enough to know who he was, but nobody else really knew who he was or thought of a movie being an actual thing that people would see. Even when we were making it, I don't think anyone thought that it would be like a real movie. Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
like not like a classic or an iconic film or anything like that.
yeah. And I don't know. Like, my wife the other day was like, oh, I think it's the 30-year anniversary. And I was like, I don't think so. But maybe it is. I don't know. It's so far removed from my life that I think the next time I really have to worry about it or talk about it is like when my son sees it.
He
Because
hasn't seen it.
hell no, he's 9 years old. That shit's gonna be fucked up though.
Yeah, that's gonna be a
Um,
crazy dude.
or like his friends, or like there's gonna be like,
Does he know that it exists?
yeah. Uh, the other day he's like, I want to see kids, and I was like, fuck no. Like you're like a decade away from seeing this thing.
Yeah, I gotta chill with that.
So yeah, he like knows about it, but he's never known me to be an actor. So like I think it's still pretty abstract to him. Like even if people like he sees people like stop me sometimes on the street and stuff, and he's like, what was that about? Like he doesn't it doesn't make sense to him.
Yeah.
Because I'm just like the annoying dad.
Yeah.
You know, like to him. So
I'm picturing being 14 in like Larry's crib, you at 14 with like Andy Roy, Julian Stranger, anti-hero dudes, skaters, and all this shit. And how impactful that probably was for you, because I remember being probably 14 and just going to like my local skate park, and it wasn't no Andy Roy, but it was just like the local fools, and I was like extremely impacted by it. And I know the same is for him and all of our homies. Just like if you grew up skating, it's kind of how it was. And yeah, how did that shape you?
I mean, I always was a very like kind of shy, somewhat insecure person. Not like, I mean, skating gives you confidence, so I wasn't like completely insecure. I could kind of like hold my own, but I was kind of, if I wasn't like physically throwing my board and shit, I was like pretty quiet. I think in my mind I was. So being in that room, you know, it was like, just don't blow it. Don't act like a little kid. Just be cool, sort of thing. But one of the things I always liked about skateboarding is you can like actually meet your heroes. It's not like baseball or basketball where these guys are like, you know, like if you go to Tompkins right now, there might be like a pro there, you know. It's not that difficult to meet pros and hang out with pros and realize like, oh, you guys are you all have this like shared love of skateboarding. Like that's the first and foremost thing. The next thing is just don't blow it. Like just be cool. As long as you're cool, everybody's cool. I mean, that's not always the case, but generally the case. Just don't blow it. So yeah, I don't know. I was probably, to this day, I would still be more intimidated and shy around like a skateboarder I respected than like an actor. I was trying to explain to somebody the other day like what a typical day would be, and it was like generally you kind of like start at the banks. For us, start at the banks, then you go to Washington Square, then you go to Astor, then you go to Union Square, like, or Midtown. Midtown was a great night spot.
Oh, really?
You would
Yeah,
skate around
nighttime, yeah.
Midtown at night because the security guards weren't paying attention or whatever. But like that was kind of the routine. That was sort of, you knew, and I would skate a lot by myself. So you would just be like, all right, I'm going to go to Union Square, see who's over there, see who's at Astor, and blah, blah, blah. And you would always just bump into people. It was in the thing I like to think about, that Astor place was literally just like a curb in the middle of the street.
Yeah.
But it was like a full on hangout. And you would always just see fools there just kicking it.
How did that start?
It started before my time. Weirdly, I don't know when the Alamo was put there, that sculpture, but there's this handrail that used to be, it's either 8th or 9th Street and Broadway, and it was like a low square handrail. And I want to say Bobby Puglia would know this for sure. It's the first handrail that Mark Gonzalez ever grinded in a video. It's called, in this video called Mondo Vision. This is 1987 or something. So it's right by where the NR stop is on Broadway and like 8th Street or whatever. So that's like a block away from Astor. So people might have been going to Astor back then. You know, there was always delis right there. This is like before there was a Kmart there for years. This is like pre-Kmart. So you could always get beer or whatever. There was a giant parking lot across the street from Astor. So if you needed to like take a piss or whatever, it's just an open air parking lot. So yeah, it was just a nighttime spot. Like, I don't really remember hanging out there too much during the day. And it was like fully in traffic. So you'd have to wait for the cars or time it or whatever. Um, yeah. Like I was thinking about the Brooklyn Banks reopening. And I was like, what is the Brooklyn Banks without the wall? Because that's what everyone did tricks over the wall, but you had to like time the traffic and stuff. So I was like, the Brooklyn Banks are cool, but the wall was kind of like the best part.
That's where most of the footage was.
So I haven't been down there yet. I'll go down there and I'll see it. I'm curious to see, like, I don't know, almost to even like bring my kid to be like, look at how perfect this place is. Like, you know, but yeah, I don't even know what we were talking about.
Just like you were saying, the day in the life of what it was really
Yeah.
like, and going from like, I don't know the order, but it was like the Banks,
Yeah.
Washington Square Park, Union Square, Astor Place.
Yeah, you also had Seaport, because there's a Burger King between the Brooklyn Banks and the Seaport. I think it's still there, and that's where you get your refillable cups, and everybody would like you have to remember, like, there might have been like $5 between everybody, so you would get like a 2-gallon thing of iced tea, whatever food, and that was it for like the day. So you'd have your little like hacks, like going to Burger King, getting the refillable cup. Everybody gets a drink out of it or whatever. Yeah, Seaport was great, but I think Seaport even came like a little later. Like they like put in the benches and stuff. But
Did you see the Banks as iconic? Did you see, well, the Banks specifically, did you see them as iconic when you went there for the first time?
yeah,
Did you think it was something special?
yeah, you kind of knew, like, there's just nothing else like it. And it's weird because, like, when I skated the Banks, people only skated the small banks. Nobody skated the big banks. And I want to say, like, nobody skated the big banks until like the Zero video, where Jamie Thomas does a line. He starts at like the 9-stair rail or whatever and skates across the street through the basketball courts and grinds one of the big rails at the big banks. There's like a little bit of footage, like this skater, I want to say his name's Lamont McIntosh. He grinded one of the pillars into the big banks, and this is like 93 or something, and that shit was crazy. People would do little wall rides and shit, but it wasn't as skated now or celebrated. Nobody was going over that rail down there. That came later on. It was, everything was kind of focused on the small banks and that little ledge that was on the corner there where the railing is, you know. Skating was also like pretty nasty back then, you know. It's like big pants, small wheels era, you know. So it's like a lot of like technical skating. Didn't go super fast. There were guys that were go fast and go big, like Ivan Perez and people like that. But most people were trying to like emulate what they saw people doing at EMB and stuff like that.
They were taking a lot of West Coast influence.
Oh yeah, like, you know, Henry Sanchez, Mike Carroll, like all that world shit, Javante Turner, like. But you had like Stephen Callis, who was fucking incredible. But you didn't get to see Stephen that much, you know. Like, he would probably be like one of the guys that was on the forefront of like being an innovator, but he, I think, you know, got locked up a few times and stuff like that. But I think, like, yeah, there was a lot of good New York skating that was never like documented.
Yeah, how many people do you think were in the scene back then? Like, and also the time you're talking about, is this like pre-Zoo York mixtape, after?
Yeah, I guess like mixtape was like that's when I feel like when RB started coming around. And I remember RB when he skated for Screw Skates, because RB is from Texas. And I remember seeing RB like as a skater. Um, but yeah, I think when RB, Dmitry Alekovic, I don't know if that's how you say his last name. I think it is. Ted Newsom was working for Transworld, and he moved to New York, and he was doing a thing called the New York Minute for Transworld magazine. That was like this funny kind of like artsy spread. But yeah, Zoo York. I mean, obviously, I've shut and companies like that, and guys like Mike Kepper who like grow up and on the East Coast and end up on the West Coast. But yeah, Zoo York really like helped solidify the scene. But then I think, yeah, like I think Stephen Callis is like responsible for like a lot of like the good gear and the sneakers and all that shit, because like he always looked fly, and I think other skaters kind of like wanted to kind of like copy that, and I think he has like a lot of influence on all that stuff.
Yeah.
Like he's not credited for it, like he doesn't make any money because of that, but I think people who know, you know.
You rode for Menace, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, Steven. So I mean, Steven rode for all the best companies. He rode for ATM Click. He rode for Blue, I think. So like Mark Gonzalez, he started ATM Click, and he picked Steven to be his guy. I'm pretty sure Steven maybe went pro for ATM Click. I think he was on World for a while. Like, again, but he just kept kind of getting locked up and stuff. And he was going to Cali. There's good footage of him backside heel flipping the 7-stair at EMB. Like, he was good. But yeah, I want to say, to me, everything's like evolved, but it's all kind of stayed the same too. You know, when I see kids at Tompkins, it just reminds me of me and my friends.
Yeah.
I mean, the kids skating, you know, the kids at like the TF and stuff. I'm like, oh, that's no different than what we were doing. We just didn't have ramps. We just had curbs and things like that. But, you know, skating might change like technically or style wise, but the ethos will always kind of be the same. Yeah.
You think that even as it gets more accepted in like mainstream, not even just like in fashion, but also in sports, the ethos will stay the same?
Yeah, because I feel like, you know, we had like Swatch Impact Tour, and then came like X Games and things like that. There'd always been a corporate element to it. And yeah, you knew like, I don't know, like you had your favorite skaters and the skaters you didn't like and the companies you liked, and skateboarding is pretty wide open. There's something for everybody. You know, you could be like a Hesh, you could be like hip hop, you can pick a style or many styles over the course of your skate career, you know. Yeah. But you know, it's a good place to figure out who you want to be.
Yeah, it's kind of like a discovery tool into yourself, but also into the world, like skate video soundtracks and all that shit. It just opens the door.
Like music for me is like the one thing that I will never stop searching. Like, I was with my kid in the record store the other day, and I was like, the crazy thing about music is you'll never hear it all. You know, you can't. It's just so much. And that's all. I mean, I have brothers and stuff, and so they were into music, but it was mostly being a skater from the late 80s through the 90s and like knowing about Slayer and Metallica, then knowing about like hieroglyphics and Dell and fucking, you know, Tribe Called Quest and Wu-Tang and all that stuff, and like Operation Ivy, like you just, the videos are so important for that stuff. Like, and you know, also you could tell like the song matches the skater, matches the style, that kind of thing is all like super important.
It's a thing you kind of intuitively get too.
Yeah,
As someone watching a lot of videos, a lot of skate videos and skating, you kind of get it right away. Even little kids can get it.
yeah,
They'll just see it and know like, oh, this song is them. This makes sense.
yeah. Like for me, when I was a kid, I probably thought Operation Ivy was the biggest band in the world. I didn't realize they had only made one record, and like it's probably all throughout this one H Street video or something. But I still love listening to that record, and like it brings me right back. I'm like, oh fuck, like this record's sick. Like
Yeah.
I want to go fucking skate. I want to be Matt Hensley again, you know. But yeah, so I still buy records, like old records. I mostly buy older records. I don't buy too much new stuff, but you know, it's hard to replace skating the older you get. You know, like the feeling of it. And so for me, certain music helps. It'll never replace the feeling of skateboarding, but you're like, oh, this is sick. You know, like
Yeah.
going to concerts. Like I go see a lot of concerts for the average person. Like the other night I went to see Pentagram and Acid Bath. It was fucking great, you know? And like I can't skate, but I could still do that. And it helps me like feel young and not like a almost 50-year-old dad.
Dude, it is hard to replace skateboarding. Sometimes I think about what it was like for me to be younger and skateboarding every day and just exploring and really experiencing life. And I really think that there's like no upbringing that offers you that much freedom, and like how you bond with your crew of friends when you're that age, skating every day, just being in the street, so you're just running into shit. It's just like you just can't replicate that type of freedom if you're like a baseball player, or if you play like Yu-Gi-Oh cards, or if you I just can't see it. I can't see replicating that. And I think about my friends, and sometimes like there's a lot of people, that amount of freedom when you're that young, you can kind of burn yourself. Like some people get burned really bad because you just like you're acting like you're 23, but you're 15, dude.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you're for real drinking every day. You're drinking a lot, and no one thinks it's weird. It's like not weird, and yeah, it's a wild upbringing. But when you look at it from a different perspective, you talk to someone who doesn't know shit about any of that. They're like, "What the fuck? Your friends did what? You guys did what? This is how you guys really like what, dude?"
Yeah.
You know?
And like, you know, it's funny because I'm kind of like a helicopter parent a little bit. Like, I'm like, don't go do that. You know, like, yeah, it's. I guess I was always kind of like self-policing a little bit because I knew I didn't have anything to fall back on. Like if I went to jail, I'm just going to jail. Like my mom's not bailing me out. We don't have any money, kind of a thing. So you always kind of like knew to not blow it. You know, like you could push it, but don't blow it, sort of a thing. And you know, I was talking to a friend of mine, and this might be like kind of an exaggeration, but I kind of feel like when a lot of people stop skating, the party takes over, right? And partying and skating are kind of like a lot alike, right? Because you bail like most nights. Like you don't fucking win, you don't land the trick, whatever. You don't go home with a girl. It's just like you get drunk and you fucking whatever. But every now and again, you land the trick, right? And you're like, fuck, that was sick. I'm going to keep doing this thing. But you can only do that for so long. So I think partying has an addictive quality the same as skating. It's like this self-masochistic thing, right? You know it's not good for you. It's kind of fun. It sort of sucks, but you kind of like that it kind of sucks. And so it's tricky. Like you bail more than you land the trick.
Yeah.
But you land it just enough to keep coming back. You know, like skating's nuts. When I was young, there were no filmers. There was we didn't have phones. You would literally be by yourself jumping down like 10 stairs to the point where you couldn't walk anymore, just so you could get the feeling of landing that trick once, right? For yourself.
No filmer, yeah.
And like, that's some real like addictive personality shit. And yeah, like, and I had like kind of like anger problems and shit like that. And, you know, nobody told me what to do. But the nice thing about skating is that you hang out with people of all ages. So you kind of like learn if the older guys are cool, they'll like put you onto some game and they'll be like, hey man, don't blow it, like be cool. Or you could have the older guys like, let's get this kid fucked up. You know, so it goes both ways. But yeah, again, I was always kind of like more insecure, shy, quiet. And like, I don't know, because of those qualities, like I didn't really know how to talk to girls at all. Like I was so bad with girls. I was so awkward. And so I'd already like gone clubbing and did all that shit. Like we were going to clubs in New York when you were 14 because they were all ages, because they didn't serve alcohol. But you could get acid, and acid was cheap and it lasted 8 hours. So everybody was just on acid or ketamine or whatever. All these teenagers, like 2,000 teenagers in a club at 5 a.m. There's footage of it. I'll show you. Or there's footage of like the club letting out and stuff. So by the time I was 16, I was like, man, I like partying, I guess, or whatever, but like I'd really like to be able to talk to some girls, and like this acid shit is not helping. So I kind of went straight edge, even though I didn't really know what that meant at that time, just like no drugs, alcohol. So I was sober from like maybe like 15, 16 until like 18 or something. So all through the filming of the movie, I was sober, which is, you know, it was really tricky for me to be like a straight fucking normal ass dude from New Jersey making this film about New York with all these like dudes who like get fucked up and shit. Like I was an easy target for all those guys to be like, who the fuck is this weirdo? You know, like this guy's the guy.
So you didn't know them before the film?
I knew Harold. Everyone knows Harold. Everybody knows Harold. I probably knew Harold, maybe Peter Bisi. I knew of everybody except for Justin. I don't think I'd ever seen Justin around. But you've seen Ryan Hickey. You knew Ryan's not even in the movie. You knew who people were, but again, like we're from Jersey, so it's like me and like Bobby Pulio and German Nives and how do you say German's last name? Nieves. So we were like a North Jersey crew, and like Tim O'Connor, Pancho Moeller, people like that. And so, I mean, Kim Cardona or Quim Cardona, he always had respect. Bobby had respect, but the rest of us were just like kooks to a New Yorker. Like we weren't as good. We just kind of like, just wasn't working. So like, you know, me I remember me and Justin getting into a fist fight on the set. And Larry's like, what the fuck are you doing? You guys are supposed to be best friends. But like we were so young and our egos were like clashing. And like I'm cool to a point, and then I'm not cool anymore. And I don't give a fuck who you are. So, and Justin was like, I'm fucking Justin. And so like we butted heads for sure. But I'm sure a lot of that had to do with me like not drinking and stuff and not trying to be down. Like I've never tried to be down with anybody. I don't give a shit. Like I just stick to myself. And I think, I don't know if it's in that interview with Tobin, but I'm pretty sure like he was at something where I wouldn't drink and all these guys were like ragging on me and shit. Come on, man, just have a beer. Like it would be almost easier just to fake having a beer than to like adamantly just say, no, I'm cool. Like I don't want a beer. Then now you're a target.
Yeah.
So like, yeah. And it wouldn't be until, so like after the film came out, I wasn't comfortable being in New York. Like I didn't like being here at all. So saved up like a little money. When we did kids, all of us, like me, Justin, Chloe, we all got $5,000. That was the paycheck for the whole movie. But we were allowed to get advances. So we're like, oh, I want some fucking Air Max. I want some this, that. You just had to ask for $100. They'd give you $100. So by the time we actually got our paycheck, most of us got like maybe around $3,000, you know, because we just bought dumb shit. And then, so now, we filmed the movie. I go like kind of like chill with my mom for a year, hide out in Jersey. I'm still coming to the city a lot, but like the movie hasn't come out. Nobody really knows what to expect. The movie comes out. It's like, there's like a line down the block to see it. Nobody told us what to do afterwards, right? So we're just still like kicking it in like Union Square Park and fucking Washington Square Park, Astor Place. And Miramax, or whoever was the distributor, they never like used us to promote the film in any way. We were never like asked to do interviews or anything that would sort of reveal our real lives or the fact we were actors. So everybody didn't know if this thing was real or fake. So whenever we'd meet anybody, they just assumed you were that character. Because if you met Harold, he's a lot like he is in the movie. And he would tell you like, yo, I'm in Kids. Like he loved like talking about that shit. Justin's a lot like Justin. Me and Chloe were the two that were kind of like different from our characters. But I'm like the bad guy, right? And so now I have this like weird other thing to deal with, right? Like, oh, you're in that movie. You're such a fucking asshole. I'm sure you're really like that, blah, blah, blah. And so I took whatever money I had and I moved to London. I didn't intentionally move to London. I went to London and stayed in a youth hostel for like 2 weeks, I think. And it was full youth hostel experience, like 3 roommates, 2 bunk beds. You're like, I don't know, I like hiding your passport in the ceiling tiles and shit. And because, you know, I'd seen in Thrasher like ads for like Slam City skates and stuff, I was like, fuck it, I'm just gonna go to that skate shop and see if anybody wanted to go skating. And sure enough, that night I met the guy who would be my roommate for the next year, Seth Curtis. Met a lot of Japanese skaters who, this is 94. They were already talking about Bathing Ape and all that shit. The Japanese skaters like put me onto streetwear. I knew about Zoo York and Polo and this kind of stuff, but I didn't know about like selvage denim or anything like that. So I didn't, and there was a lot of Japanese skaters in London. I guess a lot of them go there for university. So it was cool. London allowed me to be kind of like anonymous. Like I was a New York guy, but I wasn't like
And
the
the
guy.
film hadn't reached London.
I don't think so.
Wow, that's wild, dude.
And then when it after that year, I had no. I had like I didn't like have a job in London. I don't know how the fuck I made money. I would sell a lot of my clothes and shit to those Japanese skaters. But I came back to New York, still didn't like it. I don't remember a lot of that time period. Like I just know I wasn't like happy here. So through that guy Ted Newsom I had mentioned earlier, I had met Steve Barrett was coming to New York a lot. And so I went to LA to live on Steve Barrett and Eric Costin's couch for a year. I think Sean Sheffy had just moved out. And it was just like a fucking skate house. And you're like, whoa, like there's so much product laying around. You're like, this is fucking insane. And this is when Birdhouse is filming The End. And I would go on little trips with them, like Keith Kirchart and people like that. And so that time period was pretty cool. I was going down to Long Beach a lot, skating in Long Beach with like a lot of those guys. And in LA, again, nobody said you should be an actor. Go get an agent, try to figure this thing out. I think Justin had a little more success with that, but my voice was so crazy and I played such an unlikable character. Like it was like, oh, probably just one.
It was tough, yeah.
And so yeah, so when I was at LA, I did like any number of jobs, just whatever I could get. I lived in like somebody's. After I moved out of Steve and Eric's house, I just like lived in somebody's like kitchen cubby or some shit. And my rent was probably $300 or something. You could find $300. But at one point I remember I was Damon Wayans' assistant. I was like his lowest tier assistant. So I'd have to like go clothing shopping for him, wait for the cable guy, like all that shit. And one day he has some show on Fox and I'm the guy driving the golf court, right? And David Allen Greer, who was also on In Living Color, was on the show with Damon Wayans. He's like, aren't you the dude from Kids? And I was like, yeah. And he's like, why the fuck are you doing this? Why aren't you acting? And I was like, well, nobody ever like told me how to do that. And it was true. Like for like a few years, I mean, I still haven't figured it out. It's still like not something I kind of like really do too often. The one thing that saved me was being on The Wire. That like saved me from being just the guy from Kids. And I got really lucky with The Wire. Again, didn't realize how big it was going to be. Me and Andre Arroyo got along super well. We're still friends to this day. I think it was because of our friendship kept me on that show. Because originally I was supposed to die really quick, like within 3 episodes, but I ended up on it for 3 seasons. So,
dude, that's so interesting. Your path in acting, and how you got into it, which is just like you were picked up on the street and then you were thrown into this role, and then you're just playing this character, and then people think that that's the real you because the movie really makes it seem like that's the real you. It makes it seem like everybody in that movie is their real self. I showed it to my girl the other day for the first time. She'd never seen it before. She doesn't know like about skateboarding or anything like that. And afterwards she was just horrified and she was like, dude, was that a movie? Or like there are doubts whether that's a movie or not, you know? And I think that, you know, that was kind of the point. But you were saying how, you know, Harold Hunter was really like that, or Justin Pierce, like they're not really playing necessarily a character. It's more so in line with who they are. And that was kind of my question, is like, what were these people like? You know, you think of people like Harold or people like Justin Pierce, and I think of like icon of like spirit and freedom, and they're immortalized that way because they passed before they could age. So yeah, what were they like?
I mean, Harold was just the nicest guy to everybody, you know. like I always say Harold was everybody's first friend in New York. Like, and it's not because you didn't meet other people before him, but he's the one who stands out in your memory as being like, fuck, I remember meeting Harold. And like, I don't think it mattered who you were, how old you were, anything. Harold was your friend, you know. Always had a smile on his face, always making jokes. Um so yeah, but going back to the film, the reason it feels so natural and is because of the writing, because Harmony was 19 when he wrote it and Harmony knew everybody. So he wrote those parts for those people. They were always going to be those parts. The only there was three kind of hiccups that happened. So the person who was supposed to play my part hit puberty and kind of like aged out. Then they were going to do Quim Cardona, but his mom knew who Larry Clark was and was like, no way. And then it somehow ended up at me. I don't know. And I know Larry had to like fight for me. Like the producers were like, this kid is not star material or whatever you would call it. I had what would become Harmony's part in the movie. Harmony has a little part in the club with Chloe where he gives her ecstasy. That was supposed to be my part. So this is like a month before filming or something. They're like, hey, you got the job or some shit. And I was like, okay. And like I always said, like acting is just acting like you know how to act. It's like, like fuck it. I was never like shy about that shit or took it overly serious. I never wanted to see myself. They wouldn't let you watch playbacks because they knew if you watched a playback, you might change something. So they just wanted you to just do it. And then they would edit it and you would just see the final product later, which is probably pretty smart. Chloe's part was supposed to be played by an actress named Mia Kirshner. There's one photo that was in that show. I don't think it's in that Zoom. And it's of me, Justin, and Mia Kirshner. And everybody's like, who's that? And she was originally supposed to play the Jenny part in Kids. But she was from California, came to New York, was trying to maybe like get in character. And the other girls were like, no way. Like she doesn't work. And so like Chloe was like a very last minute decision where they were sort of like looking around and they're like, why not Chloe? And Chloe always had something about her. You knew she was special. You just didn't know how that would manifest itself. And then, talking about Stephen Callis, like he was supposed to be in the movie. There's a part written for Stephen, and he got locked up, I think, on the way to the audition. He tells the story in maybe like a 9 Club or something. But that's the one thing I think about, like how fucking rad would it have been for Steven to be in the movie? Like that would have just been like the cherry on top. But Steven's character in the movie is played by this guy Johnny Abrahams, and it's cool. But it would have been cooler if it was Steven. So Harmony was writing it with people in mind. My character was just sort of like I don't know what you would say, the protagonist that like moves the story along.
Yeah.
It was the most like kind of fictional thing.
Yeah. So of all parts of the movie, your character was the most fictional.
Yeah. Because like at the time, so Larry had collected all these stories from these skaters. Larry was at the Banks contest. He saw the fight. And so he'd kind of like just been kind of hanging out and collecting all these stories. And at that time, for some reason, they were really promoting safe sex and giving away tons of condoms in the park.
Yeah, he was saying that.
And the church was super against it.
Mm.
And Larry was like, how could you be against safe sex? Like, that's stupid. Like, and then, so like everybody's almost wearing these condoms as like jewelry. Like this is like TLC sort of, like, you know, like, yeah, they would just be kind of like draping the condoms around their necks and stuff. And Larry and talking to all the skaters and stuff about sex, they're like, yeah, we use condoms. Like, yeah, totally. And then like later on, be like, oh, we don't use condoms. We just try to find virgins or some weird shit like that. And so Larry's like, that's the storyline. And now I'm going to take everything I've learned. And I think he said he was like trying to do this movie for like 7 years or something. From California to when it actually got filmed was 7 years. So he took all the experiences he had in those 7 years and just jammed it into like a 24-hour time period. And the other thing I thought on the way here, it's not really mentioned in the movie that much, but it's supposed to be the hottest day of the year. Today is the hottest day of the year in New York right now.
No way, really? Wow.
Well, it's definitely hotter.
Definitely hot as fuck, but
yeah. So yeah, but it's, yeah, I don't know. It's weird. I've weird, like a disassociation from the movie.
yeah, I get the sense that at least from our first conversation, I remember going into our first conversation, and I was like, I'm not about to ask him anything about kids at all because this dude has probably been asked that 4 billion times.
Yeah.
So I didn't, and then I think that it just naturally came up in conversation, and we started talking about it, and I got the sense that like you didn't. Maybe I'm wrong, but at the time I got the sense that you didn't fuck with the fact that it all went down, or like it kind of left a sour taste in your mouth because of what happened afterwards. You know what I mean? Is that true at all?
No, I'm very like matter of fact. Like I'm just like, yeah, this is the way the cookie crumbles. You know, like for me, it's like a chapter in my life. It's not like something I still need to talk about, like lean on, use it for anything. It's just like, oh yeah, I did that shit, but I've done lots of shit since. So there is no like bad taste in my mouth or any kind of regrets or anything. I think I was just so fucking young. And in some ways it changed my life, in some ways it didn't. Like, but it was just part of this path. Like I'm amazed that I'm like still around and have a job and a kid, and like I had zero direction. You know, I started skating when I was like 9. That was like the direction. I dropped out of school probably by 10th grade. Like just hung out and skateboarded. And then all this shit came after, which is like pretty crazy because it could have went south at any given time, you know? So yeah, it's like, like I used to get this label of being like an anti-actor. Like I didn't like acting or something. And that wasn't the case. I just didn't like sweat it. To me, acting's like a job, you know? It's like, if, you know, like for me, it's like you have to have other interests. Nobody just wants to hear about your job. Like, I don't care what job it is. I'll listen to you talk about your job a little bit if it's entertaining. But if that's all you got going on, if you don't listen to music or go to art shows or some shit, like get out of your house and go see some shit. Then we can have some conversations, you know? Like for me, if I was to ever act again, which I don't know if I ever will, I will bring all this living into those parts, right? If I just sat around the house and waited for the phone to ring, because I was just desperately trying to be an actor, I wouldn't be able to bring anything to that craft. I wouldn't bring any life experience. But if you're going to make a movie about the art world, I've seen some shit. I can pronounce certain names. I know certain things that the average actor wouldn't. You want to make a movie about skateboarding? I'm your guy. Like, so it's not that I have any sort of feelings towards anything. It's just like I'm busy doing other things, which I think the most interesting people are well-rounded people. What book are you reading? What movie have you seen? Like, oh, sick. I think the phone has really fucked everything up. That's like an old man take, but I just feel like the phone is a very big distraction, and I understand it's convenient, but I honestly worry like that people are like forgetting to communicate with each other directly, and what does that do to a society?